Hello, 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 everyone. How are you? I hope all is well in your universe. I took a little break from making videos just a few weeks, and I was so anxious to get back to talking to you all. Wherever you are in the world, I hope that you are doing well. And as I always say, if you need to talk to someone, if you need some support, get some support, talk to someone. So I went off and led a big conference. And I went on a cruise after the conference because leadership balance matters after running a big conference like that. You need to take a break, you need to decompress. And bonus, I caught a cold from the cruise. Woohoo! So I had to take another week to recover from coughing and fever. And, you just have to be careful. Wear your mask, especially when you're on a cruise, right? Because you're in close quarters. But I have fun. I didn't need the cold though. I'm not going to say it was worth the cold. That wouldn't be true. Yes, I needed a break, but it wasn't worth catching a cold. So again, be careful if you're going to go on a cruise because it happens. But today I am here talking to you about something that I've been thinking about as I peruse what's being said on the internet, as I watch leadership podcasts and leadership experts speak. I love, love, love to learn because how am I going to share with you? How am I going to coach anyone if I'm not constantly learning, absorbing, being a sponge in my space? It's needed. I have noticed that there's a lot of fear when it comes to leading people. And it's not just something I noticed from watching getting information or watching podcasts or reading books. It's something I notice when I'm coaching my clients. Many people feel like, oh, my leader is against me, my boss is against me, my boss is a you know what, and they're complaining. I'm going to sue the company, I'm going to sue HR. But people don't realize that leadership takes a lot of heart, and there's a lot of fear amongst leaders, fear of failure, right? Fear of not being able to continue with the stress, right? Fear when it comes to life. And then whenever you elevate yourself or whenever you aspire to be more, you're taking risk. You're taking risks. You're doing what other people are not doing. I was surprised to find out that only 4% of the people who participate, meaning watch or listen to or go to social media for advice, only 4% of those participants are actually creating content. As I'm doing my research around creating content so I can get better at doing this, I'm like, wow. So what I'm trying to say is leadership or taking any kind of step that differentiates you is bold, and it can induce a lot of fear. Because for many of us, especially of those of us who take risks, that risk can cause us higher levels of stress and higher levels of fear. You put yourself out on the cliff, it's going to feel like you're putting yourself out on a cliff. Like I could fall here. And I came up this far. So the further I come up, the further I can fall. So I'm going to walk you through 6 ways because I'd like to have us to simply quantify ways that we can make changes in our lives and put a number to it. So let's go with 6 today. So 6 ways to take control of your fear right now. So today what I'd like to do also is, because I am a studier, if you will, or a learner in this space, as well as an educator, I'm going to share some of the resources from the many books and tools that I use to gather this information to share with you. And I included the links to those resources in the description down below. So you can go right there, pop in, get them. I'm not just making this up. I've learned this over the years. I've applied it with my clients. I'm learning from my clients, and I'm providing them with resources and tools that I write, that my team writes, but also that other brilliant authors and thinkers and thought leaders have shared over the years. So the first one is decide that you will conquer the fear. I always start with belief. We have to make decisions around our beliefs. And that involves changing our frequency. If you believe in frequencies and vibrations the way I do, then you may be a meditator like me. You may get up every morning and put on your abundance meditation. And I like to put on the abundance frequencies because I can feel it, literally feel it changing the atmosphere. I'm focused on solutions and not complaining. And I'm deciding that I'm changing my frequency because the environment around us will cause us to go into negative frequencies. Right? There's so much around us. So the first step is decide you will change your frequency. So what does that mean? It means you have the power to shift your mindset. Can you believe that? Some of you let me know. Comment in the comments, like how do you change your mindset? Are you into the secret? Are there some philosophers you like to listen to, or methods or methodologies you use to help you to change your frequency? And you know what the trick is? For me, especially the challenge is not only changing the frequency, but staying in that frequency is right. Creating the now by tapping into your beliefs about the future. You can shift your mindset, your emotional state, and your energy. You don't need to wait for fear to disappear before you make that shift. I had to learn that. Once I learned that, once I started to manifest what I wanted and make it real right now, and realize that that is the actual consciousness, and the unconsciousness is focusing on what you see here in the present, that's not really the reality. It changed my life. I'm going to give you a resource that can help you with that. Brené Brown puts it in her book, The Gifts of Imperfection. You are imperfect. You are wired for struggle, but you are worthy for love and belonging. You are wired for struggle because that's what the unconscious reality has told you. You already have enough. And fear is a natural response, but it doesn't have to define you. And it's a natural response that you can feel when you're focused on unconscious realities. Conscious reality is whatever you say it is. Oh, it's so deep. Okay, that's a whole nother video for us to get into. There's some folks that I think you can really study. I'm not going to particularly endorse any methodology. I want you to research it for yourself. Some things have worked for me, but understanding frequencies and understanding that the way to change your life is to get on a new frequency is deep. I changed my life that way. I had to manifest a new reality for myself, come to a new place, go through a new process, go through a divorce, pack up. I changed my reality that way. So these are things that I've done. When I'm talking to you, when I'm talking to my clients, when I'm doing my research, when I'm referring resources and tools to you, I'm speaking about my own experience and the experience I've had working with clients, the amazing stories they share. And if you stay on that negative frequency, the frequency of fear, you will not pull yourself out of it. Right? That's one resource and tool you can use. There's so many, but the first one is decide you will change your frequency. And your frequency is not fear. Your frequency is courage, and your frequency is overcoming, and your frequency is the reality of what you want, of what you're manifesting in your life, right? Number 2 is reflect on what you have overcome and remember who you are. Remember who you are. So many of us, although you might feel tired, I'm going to just put that out there, right? Because I don't want to diminish the fact that this reality that throws you into unconsciousness that we face every day can be draining, right? But reflect on what you've overcome and remember who you are. Look back and go, oh, did I do that? Oh my gosh. You are amazing. And remember that, right? When fear feels overwhelming, it helps if you take a moment to pause and look back on the obstacles you've already conquered. Even list them out. Maybe there's 10 things you can list out. I overcame this. They said I wouldn't do it. I got through school. I got through this health risk. I got through raising these children. I got through the last test. I've gotten the job I wanted when they said I wouldn't. I was able to get out of debt. once, I can get out of debt again. Remember who you are, and remember that fear will make you try to forget who you are. Like, you need to be reintroduced to yourself sometimes. Fear is a liar. So Glennon Doyle is a author who wrote the book Untamed. When you are no longer able to change a situation, then you are challenged to change yourself. Wow. Reflecting on our past victories helps us tap into our inner strengths we sometimes forget to have, right? That's a great book for you to read, to tap into, because we have to be reminded. And I know I said this in previous videos. I say it all the time, and I don't say it just as sort of this cliche. If you don't have support in your life, if you don't have people like me to talk to, or people that are uplifting in your life, then you will forget. You will forget that those negative people around you and those negative unconscious realities will keep you asleep. And you'll forget that I can pull on the same strength I pulled on yesterday to do this thing today. And maybe not even as much, right? Maybe you just need to pull on half of that much strength because you're so much more wiser now. You have those experiences, those compounded, valuable experiences to pull on. Value is not always in a dollar bill. It's not always in money. You have intellectual currency. And if you don't have the direct intellectual currency, you have the ability to tap into people around you who do. Ask, right? Ask for support. Okay, number 3, moving on. Get information. There's usually more options. There's usually more options than what your fear is telling you there are. Think strategy. Get more information. So fear often comes from the unknown. But here's the thing. There are usually more options than we realize. When you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, it's time to shift to strategic thinking, right? If you're crippled with fear, then your focus is on the fear and not your next move. Okay? So I'm going to say it again. If you feel stuck, then call somebody to get you unstuck. I like to call it undisciplined when you focus on an undisciplined mind, right? You're focused on the things you know you shouldn't be focused on. Stop. There's people who will help you. We are so much better at encouraging other people than we all are ourselves. So that friend that needs encouraging, you encourage her or him, and then call him or her to encourage you, because you need to do that for each other. You're not as good at encouraging yourself as your friend, right? So you need to get that from your friend, and your friend needs to get that from you. And it's therapeutic both ways, right? When I'm giving encouragement, it makes me feel better. When I'm receiving it, it also makes me feel better. It's therapy both ways. It's comfort both ways. And there's a lot of information on the power of support and the power of encouragement, and back to the power of meditation also. So I'm going to tell you a story. When I was a little girl, I used to get on the Sunday church van every Sunday. So here I am, little LaVada, and I'm mad because I got to get up, right? And I got to go get on the church van to go all the way to church in West Philadelphia, right? And I lived in Uptown, Mount Airy, Philadelphia. So I'm like, probably like 9 or 10 years old, right? I'm on the van, and I probably rode on that church van for many years, maybe until almost could drive myself to church, right? So Ricky will pull up, and Ricky was cool. He was our church van driver, and I ran into Ricky years later, and he had the nerve to say, "Do you remember me?" I'm like, "Come on, Ricky. You drove me to Sunday school every morning. How can I forget you, right?" So Ricky would get up faithfully. Now, Ricky had to get up real early to drive us to church. So we getting on the van, we riding on the van, and we would go to church every Sunday. We would start out with Sunday school, right? And then we would congregate with our friends, and then we would go to church, and we would sing songs of encouragement. And we might, as young people, be participating on the choir, and the people at the church would encourage us. Sing it, baby. Go ahead. Black church, right? Black church. For those of you who never been to black church, go to black church. It will encourage you. And the preacher would say things to encourage you. And then You would share with other people what's going on in your life. Your parents would come, at 11:30 service and, join up with the kids that came on the van with Ricky, right? So what I realized was that I just thought this was part of and it was part of my culture, going to church, being around people. It is part of the norm. So when I'm seeing people now that are talking about meditation, talking about community, talking about focus, talking about energy and vibrations, I'm realizing that I grew up with all that. I grew up with the meditation. Church is meditation. The songs are meditation. It's meditation. It's vibrations. It's positive energy. It's connection. It's support. The words are meditation. And what they do is they put you on a different frequency so that you could understand the reality, right? The conscious reality of who you really are. And you had support to help you to understand that. And you did that weekly because the world and the unconscious realities would make you forget, could make you forget. If you missed that Sunday, you could feel it for the rest of the week. The things of the world or the negativity and the fear would start to get to me more anyway. As I grew up and I started to realize if I don't go get that fill, if I don't fill up with that energy, with those people, with that encouragement, then I won't even seek the information I need. I'll just stay stuck in fear, right? So whatever you call it, whatever you do, whatever you call it, however you get it, you believe in the universe, you have a different religious faith, you believe in, frequency, energy, all of it is needed in order for you to sustain the pace and the frequency that you need to conquer fear. In order for you to stay connected, get information, get support, you gotta get on the van, get on Ricky's van in the morning. Okay, remember LaVada said that. I'm going to get on the van in the morning. Share with me your get on the van stories. Share with me how you encourage yourself and others. Comment down below. The reason why is not just because I want you to comment, because I actually want people to be able to pick up maybe a tip from you or a resource that can help them to stay encouraged, to stay connected, to get more information, to understand frequency, to get on the van. Because some people don't have the courage to get up and get on the van. And we're talking about fear, and we're talking about it in the context of leadership as well. Leadership can make you drained. It can make you feel like everybody is feeling like you're the bad guy, and you have to do the things that are hard. You have to, discipline people. You have to hire the people. You have to fire the people. You have to say no to the budget. You have to negotiate with the board. You have to deal with cuts. You have to deal with uncertainties. You have to talk about change management. You have to do all the things. And that can make you feel like you're on an island by yourself. Okay. But not when you get on that van and you realize, hey, I'm just looking for the people that are looking for me. And the people that are looking for me and I'm looking for them, we're encouraging each other. Let's talk about number 4. Number 4 is really important because it's move your body and release stress. You have to move your body and release stress. There is so much information that you can find about cortisol levels, about estrogen levels, testosterone levels, progesterone levels. All of these things are affected, believe it or not, by stress. I'm starting a channel, I'm starting a new program on menopause. Menopause and perimenopause can start in your early 30s, and men suffer from something called andropause. And all of those changes in your body affect your performance in the workplace, affect your ability to relate to your loved ones, affect your decision making. It's it's not worth it. The stress is not worth it. You have to release the stress. And one of the ways to do that is to really get in the routine of moving your body. So exercise is important, right? For leaders, for people who have to take risk, for anyone, but for people who are taking risk, taking on leadership roles, running businesses, right? It's so easy for us to stay stuck here on our computers, right? We're on the laptops, we're just going. You have to stop and release your body. 10 minutes a day can change your life, releasing the stress. And you probably heard this before, but it's important. Movement helps lower your cortisol levels. It helps you get unstuck. If you feel like you're stuck in fear, you don't know what to do, just, you know, just do it. So get into this book by Sonia Renee Taylor called The Body is Not an Apology. It is an instrument of power and change. When you move, you're telling your body it's safe and you're signaling your brain that you're in control. Did you catch that? When you move, you're telling your body that it's safe. I'm telling my body it's safe. And you're signaling that, telling your brain that you're the one that's in control. For women, and especially women of color, stress can hit harder. And studies show that higher stress levels are linked to early menopause and even long-term health risks like heart disease. Okay? So ladies, I'm talking to you. All women, but especially women of color, African American women, African women, women of African descent, women of Hispanic descent, women of Native American descent, right? We tend to live in this space where we think that stress is the norm. Stop normalizing stress. Stop normalizing stress. It's not the norm. You know what you need to normalize? In your conscious state, make conscious that you don't have to struggle to keep the things you need to keep. If you're in leadership, in the leadership context, you don't have to struggle to be a leader. It's not a struggle. It just is. Things can come easy. Okay. And I will tell you that a lot of times, especially when it comes to women and women of color, we add on things to make more stress. So you're a leader, right? And you have all these things you have to do at work, or you're a leader and you're running your own business. And then you want to leave 50,000 things out in the community. You don't have to raise your hand for everything. You don't have to take on the leadership role on every board. Okay? You don't have to take on the leadership role on every committee. You can prioritize. You are still significant and you still matter and you still add value if you're not taking on everything. You still add value if you're not taking on every leadership role. You don't always have to be seen in the front. You know what is power? There's so much power in silence. When you're in those meetings or you're in those situations where people ask for volunteers, be quiet. Let somebody else volunteer. Somebody else will speak up. I say get comfortable with being uncomfortable and letting someone else step up. You don't always have to fill that space, that silent space. People waiting around for you to do things because you've heard me say it before. You teach people how to treat you and you're teaching them that you're going to step up and take on the leadership role. And someone else needs to be developed. Someone else needs to take a leap. Someone else needs to be out on the cliff and learn what it feels like to be the leader. You don't have to do it all. So stop adding more stress. And you're adding more stress because you're normalizing stress. When you get a moment of just being, it's uncomfortable for you. Be comfortable. Be comfortable with just being, right? So move your body, release the stress, take more time for you, okay? And get into Sonia Renee Taylor's The Body is Not an Apology. The link to the book is down below. Okay, awesome. I forgot to give you Kim Scott's Radical Candor. That teaches us to move forward when we get clarity and information. So we want to get Kim Scott's Radical Candor because that'll help us with number 3, getting more information. She says, if you're not willing to accept feedback, you're not going to be able to learn. And if you're not learning, then you're not going to grow. You're gathering data in a way that is strategic and succinct. And if you need strategic thinking skills, I'll put the link to my strategic thinking course in the description below as well. And please, for those of you who haven't comment. Let me know if you have some more resources, some more strategic thinking resources, or any other resources on these topics. But get into Kim Scott's Radical Candor. We need to understand how to get information, seek information. Okay, now let's go to 5. Tap into your higher support. So people who believe in a higher power show signs of less stress. We're going to go back to that, me being on the van when I was a little girl, riding on the van in the mornings with Ricky, going to Sunday school. Teach yourself, teach others in your life, teach your children to tap into something beyond yourself, something beyond yourself that will help you to de-stress, right? Something has to be out there that's higher than you, whatever you believe in. I'm just saying, for some people, if you're an atheist, I fully respect that. I'm not trying to tell you what to believe in. But for people who do tap into a higher power, there are documented signs of less stress. Because what's happening is they're able to change their frequency from fear, from doubt, from disbelief to I have an energy and a power that is higher than my brain can conceive, higher than the thoughts and the future than I can perceive. There's something more than me. So tap into higher support. Rather it's your faith, rather it's spiritual practices or a sense of purpose that you have. Right? People who believe in higher power, again, tend to show less stress and greater resilience. When we feel that we are part of something bigger than ourselves, fear becomes easier for us to manage. It doesn't become us. It just becomes something that we have to pull ourselves out of. So Maya Angelou said wisely, you may not control all of the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. Okay? Your connection to something larger, whether it's God, the universe, or your community, can provide the strength you need to face and conquer fear. So ground yourself in a higher support. Ground yourself in your meditation. Okay? And that will, there's just so many, even stories I can share in my life. I'm gonna tell you another story. I'll tell you another story about me manifesting some of the realities through my consciousness in my belief. So I was at church and I was fresh out of undergrad, and I decided that I wanted to get a 6-figure position. And I'm like, okay, you're fresh out of undergrad, you want to get a 6-figure position, and you don't know how you're going to get that. You've been setting up, I kind of know. I guess I've been setting up interviews. I have been making connections. And I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tap into my higher belief. And I don't have a job yet. I was a young wife. I was married with 3 kids. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take from my savings and I'm going to actually give to my church community. We did a lot with supporting children, scholarships. You could give to different funds in the church. I decided to choose a fund that I was going to give to. And I said, I'm going to give 10% of the salary I want to make, of the 6-figure salary I want to make, as if I already have it. I'm going to give 10% of that every Sunday when I come to church. And I wrote down the amount. I wrote it down. I put a date on it. And I began to give it. And I think I did that for a little over a month. And I was going on interviews. Here's the power of belief. When I got an offer, and I negotiated my offer a little bit, right? We settled on, and I didn't even know this. I did not know this until I checked it because I'm in the middle of getting a job offer, going through negotiations. When I finished with the negotiations and the employer came back to me with the amount that we settled on, I realized when we finished, and I later checked, that the amount that I received was exactly the amount that I wrote down and that I was tithing 10% for, to the penny. Do y'all hear me? To the penny. I went and told my grandmother, I said, Grandma, I miss my grandmama. I said, Grandma, I wrote down the amount. Look. And she was like, whoa, praise God. We just started praising God, right? That is truth. That is truth. That's one of the things that I do. And then we talked about number two, reflect on where you come from and who you are. I have to go back and reflect on that to remember I can tap into my belief. I can tap into that frequency because I've done it before. We all do it. We all do it. We know, and the trick is just staying in that frequency, learning to stay in that frequency. But I'm thinking, wait, if I'm facing an obstacle, if I'm feeling scared, if I'm facing some fear in my leadership or any other area of my life, I'm like, wait, I can tap into another realm and a frequency and an energy because I've done it before. I've allowed my actions in this world to be of my beliefs, right? So, okay. So anyway, it's deep and it's emotional. And when you go back and think about it, and I know there are stories that people can share, um, where it just doesn't make sense. Your fear is getting you to believe that your reality is the only thing that exists. And it's not. You have planted seeds, you're planting seeds out there. And those seeds are going to bloom. Number 6 is to take everything that I said and make a real plan. Take everything that I said and make a plan. Don't just listen to what I'm saying, write it down, make a checklist, go back, look at all the points that I mentioned and make a checklist from the points. Make a real plan. Everything that you've learned, okay? Because this is where action comes in. Fear often keeps us paralyzed, but when we put our ideas into concrete plans, we shift into action. We shift into action. Hey, so a colleague and I were talking the other day. Shout out to B in Tanzania. How you doing, B? And we were talking about how we share this kind of information with our clients, and we're coaching, and that we have a 100% success rate when people actually apply the knowledge. But unfortunately, a lot of people take in knowledge and they never apply it. So that's why when I'm emphasizing make a plan, I'm serious. Make a plan. Take one of the 6. Get one of the books. Start walking for 10 minutes. Do something. Start reflecting right now. Because most people, I mean, goodness, I'm looking at the stats when I'm really reading this stuff. I want to say like 96% of people don't apply the knowledge they get. Right? Crazy. I can't wait to apply knowledge. Of course, there's some things that I know I should be doing every day, but for the most part, if I'm going to sit and learn it and really think about it and go through the training or the certification, or I'm there to learn and I'm there to apply because I don't have time to waste. Right? So it just blew my mind. I'm like, people are just like listening and listening. So here's one thing that I want to say too, because there's just so much information in videos like this, or there's information on TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn for those of you who are there. Maybe just taking one video a day, just taking one breadth and depth of knowledge a day and then see how you can apply it. I really would encourage you to try one long learning video a week, maybe, and see how you can apply it. Actually put it into practice, right? Don't just be an observer on the sideline. Take these things and actually apply them, right? And then if you feel it in your heart and you're encouraged to do so, hit the subscribe button, come back, share. Let people know how it be of service to other people. And let them know how some of these things are helping you. Because when I start my classes, I say all the time, like, I study this stuff all the time. I nerd out on this stuff. I share this stuff. I can't wait to share when I'm learning something from you all. Like I said, I'm learning all about hormones and changes and how stress is affecting us now. And I'm developing a whole new program on menopause and andropause, right? For men and women, so that this stuff starts for you early in your 30s and it affects your work. Because I can't hold it. If I know it, I want you to use it and apply it the same way I am, right? But I want you to be sharers of knowledge as well. I want you to come back here and tell us how you're using this information, how it's changing your life, how you have tips and stories just like LaVada does. I want us to start to be a community, right? That's why I'm doing this. So, yeah, be different, and for many of you who are watching, you're already, in leadership roles and you're already different because you've elevated yourself to take that risk and sort of be out there on that cliff. So I appreciate you and I want you to not, I really sincerely want you to be able to put that fear where it belongs. It's going to come up. We're human, but put that fear where it belongs and use those 6 things that I talked about to really bring it in, right? To really bring it in. Let me just go over them one more time. Just make sure I hit all of them one more time for you in this video. Number 1 is decide you will, change your frequency, right? Decide you will. Number 2 is reflect on what you've overcome and remember who you are. Remember the power you hold. Number 3 is get information because there are usually more options and think strategically. And you need information to be able to think strategically. And most of our fear, a lot of times, comes from lack of information and understanding. Okay. Number 4, move your body and release stress because your hormonal changes are real. And stress releases cortisol, and that's dangerous, right? It has a long term effect and it can throw you into processes that your body shouldn't be thrown into, right? So release some stuff, get rid of that. Tap into your higher support because people who believe in higher support show signs of less stress, right? And less stress, healthier life, right? And then number 6, take all that and make a real plan. Don't just sit here and listen to this information and be like the 96% that mostly just listens and doesn't apply. Okay? Be safe, be blessed, and be good. I'm going to see you again. And if you share some comments and information, it gives me ideas about what to talk about next that can help you and what resources you can use. I put the links below so that you can grab some of those books. Grab those books. Let's talk it out. What points in those books are really standing out for you? I want to know because I learn from you just as much as you learn from me. All right? Talk soon.